Hello, guys. Hope you're all doing well and happy Women's International Day. So, as you can guess, in this video, we're going to talk about Women's International Day. The first question is that how and when and where it started. Actually, it's not a very old phenomenon. It's just like it's more than a century that we first started this celebration of this phenomenon in the world. So, for the very first time, it happened in 1909, February 28th, 1909, in New York City. So, who did it in New York? There was a party back then called Socialist Women of America, Socialist Party of America, actually. So, that socialist guys very first celebrated this day on February 28th, that day back then. Okay, next year in 1910, in August of 1910 to be a little bit more exact, there was a kind of international socialist women's conference. Okay, International Women's Social Conference. In that conference, the German delegates they suggested that we should have one day annually to celebrate Women's Day. And the 17 countries and their delegations that were present at that conference, they all unanimously agreed to this proposal. But still, there wasn't any specific date on which it should be celebrated. So in New York, it was first celebrated on February 28th, but when the German delegate proposed and at that conference they accepted it, they did not specify a particular date for that. So when was it celebrated? It was usually celebrated late February or early March, normally on weekends, means Saturdays or Sundays, depending on the situation. So it wasn't any particular day, but it was late February or early March, this kind of days that they were celebrating. So it became kind of bigger. The European countries also started celebrating one day annually as Women's Day. Still, it was not an international phenomenon, but they started celebrating it. But one thing a little bit big happened. That happened in a city called Petrograd. Petrograd is a city currently in Russia, okay, a Russian city right now it is. What happened there that on March 8th of 1917, the women workers of textile sector, they started protesting, demonstrating against all that inequality and the problems that they were facing against those kind of issues. So they started demonstrating, and it got huge, quite huge. It got huge to that extent that uh, it was named February Revolution. So it was March 8th, but it was called February Revolution. So why? There is a very small reason that is about the calendar. Any other video, we may talk about this calendar issue a little bit more in detail, but let's get to this now. So back then, Russia was using Julian calendar, not Gregorian one. And according to Julian calendar, it was not actually March 8th, it was February 23rd. So it was February 23rd that this incident happened, this demonstration happened. That's why in Russia it became what? February Revolution, which paved the way for the October Revolution, and that things happened in Russia. So we had it in New York, in USA, we had it in Europe in a very great extent, and then we also had it in Russia. But still, it was not international, and still, we did not have a fixed date to celebrate this day, the Women's Day annually. Now, the question is that when it became an international phenomenon, For that, we have to be thankful to UN, United Nations. United Nations had named the year 1975 the Women's Year, International Women's Year. So that year, UN started celebrating Women's Day. Still, there wasn't any specific day. 2 years later, in 1977, United Nations asked its members that a day should be specified and that day should be celebrated as Women's Day internationally. So UN did not propose any particular day, just suggested that we should have a particular day. Since many countries were already celebrating this day on March 8th, so it automatically that day became the Women's International Day. So that's how we got this March 8th for women's around the world. That was a short, brief history of this day. Now coming to 2026. 2026, UN has given a theme to this day, to March 8th of this year. It's called Rights, Justice, Action. All for all women and girls. You might have a question that why rights and justice? Actually, women unfortunately are still facing bias, still facing injustice. That is still they still do not enjoy all the rights around the world. According to UN report, women have only around 64% rights that men have. Means if we have if men around the world have 100 rights, women have 64 rights. They lack 36 other rights. So there's a percentage overall around the world. For sure, some countries are better, some countries are quite worse than that. But overall, as an average, women internationally are having only 64% of the right compared to rights of men. That is less than two-thirds. It's quite huge, humongous. In addition to this, even the rights that women have, they are not having them quite equally to men. And most of the place, unfortunately, it has become systematically that this disadvantage against women, it has become systematic in different parts, particularly regarding employment, in politics, in even property, child custody, divorce, and a lot of other issues. Women are facing a lot of systematic disadvantages and biases. For sure, in practice, it gets more than that. So, women are still struggling to obtain their basic rights. Still, they do not have all those rights that a man as a human has. So that's the reason that UN has named this year, that they have given this theme to this International Women's Day this year: rights, justice, action for all women and girls. I hope we all, men and women, all of us, try to our own part in our own territory as our own power and authority to make this world a better place for women, because ultimately the world will become better for all of us. And particularly in this chaotic world that we are experiencing these days, we really need that a lot. We need to support each other, to help each other, in order to have a peaceful, stable, world where each human, regardless of their gender, their financial status, their education level, their race, their nationality, their anything, regardless of any criterion, they should be treated as human with full dignity, with full respect, and they should be allowed to enjoy all their rights as a human around the world. Once again, happy Women's International Day. See you guys.